in the public forum section of the meeting and on each agenda item. When the item you wish to speak on is called, please follow these steps to make your comment. When the chair calls a particular item and you wish to speak on that item, click the raise hand button if joining by computer. If joining by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. When it is your turn, I will announce your name and invite you to speak. You may see a message saying the host would like you to unmute your microphone. If you get this message, click unmute myself and begin speaking. To unmute yourself by phone, dial *6 and begin speaking. Video will not be turned on, only audio. You have up to 3 minutes to make your comments to the Planning Commission. At the end of your 3 minutes, I will ask you to conclude your comments quickly, and I will mute your audio once you're done. Please only press *9 and raise your hand for items you wish to speak on, as raised hands will be cleared at the end of each item. The agenda for tonight's meeting is available on the city's website. As is standard practice, members are allowed to comment one time on each agenda item. All votes at tonight's meeting will be taken by roll call. We ask for your patience when there are technical difficulties. This concludes my opening remarks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones. Okay, so the next item to deal with is the consent calendar. We have 2 items on.
I'm sorry, Chairman, we need to do public comment and agenda changes first, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm sorry. So is there any public comment?
We do have Chris James.
Okay.
Chris, I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself now, please.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, great. I just wanted to thank Nicole for putting up with all the Zoom stuff that we've been having to do for the last 12 or so months. I hope that the city going forward, I know June 15 is approaching pretty quickly, and potentially we all go back in person, but I have seen an increase in participation from a wide set of the community that have never really showed up before at public meetings. And I hope that we can continue doing Zoom, offering it as an outreach to the community. You know, people come home late from work, and I've seen them, people in the kitchens cooking while they watch the meetings, and they participate when appropriate. So I'm hoping that we can continue offering Zoom going forward in some capacity. And sorry, Nicole, I know it's an extra burden on you guys, but the community really loves it, I think, and it's a good feature. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. James. Is there any other public comment?
I see no raised hands at this time. If anybody in the waiting room would like to speak on a non-agendized item, please raise your hand at this point. Going once, twice. No one's raising their hand, Chairman.
Okay. So with that, we'll go. Is there any agenda changes, commissioners or Director Cooper?
Chair Navarro, I have no agenda changes for the commission tonight.
Okay, great. All right, so now we can proceed to the 2 items we have on the consent calendar, the minutes from March 25th and 2021 Planning Commission meeting, and then the minutes from April 27th, where there was a special joint City Council Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, to approve these minutes, assuming everybody's reviewed them?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
It's to approve the minutes of the March 25th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, along with the approval of minutes for the April 27th special joint City Council Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Altman?
Aye.
Commissioner Goff?
Yes.
Commissioner Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Malari?
Aye.
Chair Navarro?
Aye. Okay. So now we can move on to the public hearings that we have. Public hearing 4.1 to consider a resolution to approve a design permit for the development of 186 affordable apartment dwelling units. Staff report.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Let me set up my screen share here.
Okay.
All right. Can everybody see okay?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. Good evening, Chair Navarro, members of the Planning Commission, and members of the public. I'm William with the Planning Division, and I'm here to give a presentation on the Lemos Point project. Oops. There we go. All right. The Lemos Point project is actually named after one of our longtime residents, Ms. Fran Lemos, longtime resident and Gateway Award winner. And she used to come to our planning commissions quite frequently. We definitely miss her. So here's the agenda for the Lemos Point project. I want to talk about the project location and the vicinity map. Then we'll talk about the site plan itself. I have some site photos to share with you. And we'll see the architecture. We have some renderings of the architecture. There are some site-specific issues to go over. And then lastly, I have our staff recommendation and CEQA compliance that goes with it. So here's the Lemos Point project site. It's marked in the yellow box here. It's kind of like behind the Napa Lodge. It's in the Watson Ranch specific plan, 6.77 acres, and right now it's can't reach it right now, but in the future it will be accessible from the Rio Del Mar road. So to the west is the lodge, to the north and east will be future residential parcels, and then to the south we have the Napa Valley ruins. Here's the project itself. It's in the Watson Ranch specific plan. It's zoned as a high density residential, HDR. The project consists of 186 dwelling units. They are 8 3-story buildings, and they are proposed as 100% affordable housing. The site will be supported with 301 parking spaces. They are going above and beyond with the bicycle parking. It's proposed 84 bicycle spaces. There will be about 0.73 acres of open space, usable open space, and then about 2 acres of landscape. So here's the site in relation to the Watson Ranch specific plan. As I mentioned, the future Rio Del Mar will go through the railroad, and the site will have Rio Del Mar on its south side, and to the east side will be a future loop road. Interestingly, this will be the second project in the Watson Ranch specific plan. Previously, the Watson Ranch subdivisions, lots 14 and 15, were approved last December. So here is the site plan. There's the 8 buildings that are all 3-story. There will be 4 private streets within the site, and there's Rio Del Mar on the south and Loop Road on the east. The main entrance is on the northeast, which is off of Loop Road, and then they have an emergency vehicle access, an EVA, that's in the center between buildings 1 and 2 for fire access off of Loop Road. I have some site photos to share with you. These are from the applicant. This is the site, I think, as of, I think it was February or January. So go back here. So there's 2 vantage points. From the vantage point of part 1, it's from the southeast of the site, and vantage point 2 is from the center middle on Rio Del Mar. So here's the first 2 pictures. As you can see, it's a vacant site. In the far distance, you can see some of the ruins that are there today. This is from the southeast corner. And the second, these two photos are from the center south, facing north. You can see homes in the far distance here. The architecture is, I guess it's more on the modern side. 3-story buildings. There's 3 types, but the majority of them are the 26-unit and 18-unit buildings. Here is the 26-unit building, 3 stories, about 40 feet tall, nice, large bay windows, and lots of natural light. They have the stone wainscot on the bottom and 3-colored siding. This was the blue colored siding for the 26 unit. And then the 18 unit one is more of the darker beige, 3 colors, white, beige, and brown. So really nice looking buildings. Here they are rendered. So on the top we have the 26 unit building, and then the bottom of the 18 unit building. So interestingly, this is one of the first projects in the city that's proposed to use modular construction. So modular construction has 3 advantages. The modules, which is pieces of the building, are built off-site. At the same time, the property is being graded and prepared. The modular manufacturing and construction, it's done within a controlled environment and it's not affected by weather. And the modules are inspected by the state before even arriving on site. So I have some pictures that I found on the internet about the modular construction. So on the top left, we have an example of these little modules that kind of like shipping containers, pieces of the building being built inside a warehouse while the construction site is being prepared. And on the top right, I just wanted to show that the modules can, once they're completed, they can look in any way or shape or form. On the lower left is a photo of not a residential project, but actually it's a hotel that's being built with modules. So lots of it's a new method of construction, and this is one of the first projects that's proposed to do it. A little bit about landscaping. They have a preliminary landscaping plan. This is the site again. On the south side, we have a nice landscaping strip. The south side is going to be supported with the Chinese pistache and green elms, and then on the west side will be holly oaks, a nice row of holly oaks. On the east side would be Chinese pistache, and then within the parking lot they'll be using hackberry trees. So that's the landscaping plan. And affordable housing. As I mentioned in the beginning, this project is proposed as 100% affordable housing, 186 units, and here's the breakdown. 62 of the units are in the 60% AMI, area medium income, 75 is 50% or lower, 28 is 40%, and we even have 19 units that are proposed at the 30% level. So really nice to see that proposed. I also want to share the bedroom count with you. So there are 48 3-bedroom units, 48 2-bedroom units, 66 1-bedroom, and 24 studio units. So for 2 and 3-bedroom units, about 96 of those. So a lot of family-friendly units that are going to be included in this project. So with that, I want to talk about concession requests. So these are, they're kind of like waivers or relaxed standards that the the applicant has requested. You can find the definition of the concessions requests in the Chapter 19.27 of the Density Bonus Ordinance. Applicants can request up to 3 types of concessions, and according to state law, when concessions are proposed, the city must approve them unless the city can demonstrate that the relaxed or waived standards cause harm to the public health or safety. So here we go. There are 3 concessions. The first one is parking. The applicant requests an increase of compact vehicle spaces from 15% to 29%. Reduce the total number of spaces from the required 362 to 301, and reduce the width of covered parking stalls from 12 by 20 to 9 by 20. The second concession is setbacks. So the applicant requests to reduce the future loop road side, that's on the east side setback, from 15 feet to 10 feet. And then the north side for their carports from 10 feet to 3 feet. And then on the south side, facing Rio Del Mar, from 15 feet to 14 feet and 3 inches. And lastly, we have open space. The Watson Ranch specific plan requires, I think, about 300 square feet per unit, and that would add up to 1.28 acres. And the applicant is requesting to reduce that open space requirement to 0.73 acres. So I wanted to note that of the 0.73 acres, the applicant is providing a nice lawn area, a tot lot, a basketball court that's half court, a picnic area, and a dog park on the southwest side. So lots of little changes to the site plan overall, but with these concessions, the applicant is able to put in more units. And they had a letter of justification saying that if those concessions were not requested, it would be losing 2 buildings overall. So that's the concessions part. Do want to talk a little bit about Loop Road. So this is the original bicycle ped plan from Watson Ranch specific plan. And if you see the blue line road that's coming north-south, it's hugging the west side of the Lemos Point project. And originally it was going to go on the side here adjacent to the railroads. However, recent developments of the Watson Ranch specific plan has the Rio Del Mar tunneling under the railroads, and it's going to offset the grade for the bike ped plan. So the applicant has proposed to move the blue line and have a bike lane to the east here on the east side facing Loop Road, and then there will be a separate 12-foot lane that's going east-west to the north side. I'll show you on the next slide. So instead of the road coming on the west side here, you're going to follow Rio Del Mar, and then you can go north on this new yellow lane, which is going to be a 12-foot trail. It's an 8-foot trail with 2-foot shoulders, and then you can there's going to be a second future trail that's highlighted in blue, and you can move east-west, and then you can get back on the future trail. So that's the Loop Road. And the CEQA determination. The project was analyzed under the Watson Ranch Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report. This project has no substantial evidence of changed circumstances that requires any further CEQA review. and the applicants is required to comply with all applicable mitigation measures identified in the Watson Ranch specific plan environmental report, as well as the Watson Ranch specific plan development agreement. That leads to the staff recommendation. I do have to mention that there are some amendments to the resolution, which I sent to the Planning Commission, I think, about an hour and a half ago. And that was, the amendments are to correct some typos in the finding section, and then modify some conditions that were just redundant to the Watson Ranch EIR and the development agreement, as well as the master backbone infrastructure. So that's my presentation. The applicant is here. Lauren and her team for Limos Point is here. If you have any questions, I'll be here to try to answer.
Okay, so I guess, yeah, why don't we go ahead and hear from Lauren?
She's on mute.
Hi there. I was checking to see whether I should go on video, but I think that we're doing no video.
You can.
It's fine with me either way.
Okay.
I don't know your normal policies.
Do you have anything to present, or you're just going to speak?
We don't have anything to present. I did check with Brent about whether to prepare anything, but the staff report was so thorough, we didn't think that we needed to take more of your time. We're happy to answer questions. The architect and civil engineer are present to answer anything technical. So we're just here to help.
Okay.
Chair Navarro, if I could just add just one point as to kind of tear off of what William had said. We met with the applicant yesterday in regards to some of the corrections to the conditions. The city attorney was present at the meeting, and at this point, with the revisions that Mr. He provided, I think everybody, the applicant and staff and legal counsel, public works and the like, are all in agreement with the modifications.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. So then I guess if we don't have any burning questions, maybe we open to public comment.
Okay, we do have somebody, wait, we have a panelist. Tammy Wong, Commissioner Wong has.
Oh,
raised
okay.
her
Go
hand.
ahead, Commissioner Wong.
Thank you. And I just had a couple of questions, and they may be, I don't know if this is really geared towards the applicant or maybe towards our own public works team. I know council is going to be declaring a water emergency on Tuesday for the drought. And that made me wonder, being that this is a new housing development and we do have recycled water capability within the city, which we do use right now for landscaping, has any consideration been given to the use of what I think is called dual plumbing, where recycled water is plumbed into the house and used for things like flushing the toilets and landscaping?
Commissioner Wong, if I'll take a crack at it, and then maybe turn it over to our Public Works Director, Erica Smithies is here today. The Watson Ranch specific plan overall has addressed zero water footprint policy issues sort of comprehensively. And a zero water footprint policy in very general terms requires conservation in the system in order to accommodate new users of potable water. So as we have new demands, such as an apartment project like this for potable water, the project overall will provide conservation and or additional water sources, as the case may be, to compensate for it. So in general, with regard to any water conservation measures that the council adopts per our ordinances, this project would certainly be subject to that. But the issue on whether there is water availability has been addressed comprehensively through the specific plan.
Thank you, Brent. Yes, I understand that's how normally the new development happens, is with the zero water footprint and the offsetting, increasing the use of recycled water. I just was wondering if this new concept of dual plumbing had reached our city yet. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Wong, there are projects that do have dual plumbing, but I'm not aware of this one being one of them.
All right. So I guess, is there any other commissioners that have a clarifying question? Did your question get answered fully, Commissioner Wong, on?
It did, and I had a couple of other questions as well, but I can hold them and we can go through any public comment first, so as not to keep our citizens waiting.
Okay. All right. So is there any public comment, Ms. Jones? Anyone waiting?
We have, oh, yes, Dan Fritz, please unmute yourself. Mr. Fritz, there we go. Hello, Mr. Fritz. Mr. Fritz, I'm showing that you're unmuted. Please begin speaking.
Mr. Fritz, we are unable to hear you if you're saying anything. We can't hear you.
Okay. I am going to mute you. I've lowered your hand, Mr. Fritz. Chris James has raised his hand.
Okay.
Chris, if you could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for, or whoever put forward the name, for Fran Lemos. I really like that. It's very important. She's a very important person in the city, and we all love her. And it's exciting to see, more projects coming on that side of town and this thing rolling ahead. It's really important that we keep this ball rolling. And I noticed that the parking was reduced, I think, in this project, and the number of parking spaces. And there's been a number of things pop up in relatively new developments in the city where there's been limited parking or increased parking fees on site that has pushed parking onto residential streets. And there's nothing stopping people using residential streets. But I'm wondering if because of reduced parking, and I know there's no other residents around this new place, but as it gets built out and things evolve and people move in and multi-car families, etc., my concern would be is that, again, this could happen here, that parking could become a problem. So it'd be nice to see some sort of policy put in place where, there's no hidden fees when people move in and then they get, there's rumors there's an extra $100 a month for extra car parking at some of the new facilities in town, new places in town. So it's, I just kind of look into the future and future problems. But again, thank you for such a good presentation tonight, and it's exciting to see all these projects moving forward. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have Dan Fritz again. Mr. Fritz, I'm asking you to unmute yourself. Mr. Fritz, please unmute yourself.
Okay.
Mr. Fritz, I'm showing that you are unmuted. Can you please begin speaking? Mr. Fritz, we are unable to hear you. If you'd like to call in, that might be a solution.
What's the number to call in, Nicole?
If I have to read that, I don't have it memorized. Yes. Okay, so Mr. Fritz, you can call in at 408-638-0968. The webinar ID is on the agenda, but it is 950-0137-2673. and the passcode is 899670. And again, that's also on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anyone else waiting while he,
We have several people in the waiting room. If you would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now. Okay, we have Brooke.
okay,
Brooke, please unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you for letting me join in here. Can you hear me all right?
yes.
Okay, a couple questions I have. When is this project projected to start and end? And has there been consideration to making sure the roads are built prior to this additional traffic coming into the city? Especially with 301 parking spaces. That's another 301 cars on our roads that don't seem to be able to handle it at this point. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else have any public comment on this item at this time? Nobody is raising their hand, Chair Navarro.
Okay. All right, and we don't have a call in from Mr. Fritz yet,
We
so.
do not.
Okay, So-
Chair Navarro, if you don't mind, I could answer
sure. Okay,
the last caller's questions. There is what's called the backbone infrastructure application right now with the city to provide road access to the project. With regard to traffic, the Watson Ranch project, this is part of it, analyzed traffic impacts and is making a wide variety of road improvements and the like in order to accommodate traffic impacts and their fair share of required infrastructure. So this is kind of part of a larger project where a lot of those issues were addressed and incorporated into mitigation measures and development agreement and the like. So they've been accommodated as these projects move forward.
and the timeline part of the question, he asked when it would start, how long it would take.
That's probably a better question for the applicant.
Okay,
Hi, this is Lauren.
go ahead.
So
Lauren.
we have Edward Wu on the line as well, and I'll ask him to chime in with more specific dates. I do know that with modular construction, as Mr. He said, the modules are inspected by the state before leaving the factory and coming out to California. And that state approval is planned for August 6th or thereabout. So I would expect, and Edward, if you can chime in, I would expect that towards the end of August, construction of the modules would begin. Though I do believe that, grading had have been planned sooner than that. And of course, we were waiting for approval of the project by the commission.
Yeah, so I think we were anticipating pulling permit more like toward I think August or October, and typically the modular manufacturer construction probably just takes like 18 to 24 months to construct. But most of, again, as he kind of indicated in his presentation, most of those modular are done at the factory, so there's just going to be limited site work, and the site will be done in conjunction with the modular. So I foresee like the overall construction schedule with modular to be compressed, so less impact to the neighbor and surrounding area.
Okay. So there's a lot of dependencies before actual groundbreaking and grading, and then the actual installation and then setup of the modular building. So the public won't see much for, sounds like at least a year.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Mhm. Okay. All right, so if we don't have anything from the public, we'll go ahead and turn it over to questions for the commissioners. By the commissioners. Anybody? Oh, I see. Okay. Brent, did your hands up, and then Commissioner Altman? Oh, that's my hand. Sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Altman.
Got it. Okay. I've got a few questions that I'm curious about. And first, I was kind of touched on is the reduction in parking space allocations. I can sort of understand the increase in the compact spaces versus the standard space, but just the dropping of the overall number for this many units, you know, and maybe my quick mental math is off, but as I look at this 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units, you've got to figure all of them are going to have 2 drivers. So for all of those units, which is all but 24 of the 186 total, you're likely going to have 2 cars, is my guesstimate. So that puts you at your, you know, over 300 right there, and then your 24 studios, I'm assuming you might have 1 car. That puts you closer to, you know, 340 or thereabouts. And we're dropping it from 360, which I get, bringing it down from there, but all the way down to 301. It seems a little bit light. What's the thinking, or where's my math not accurate in terms of how I, as a layperson, kind of look at this? So I'll start there.
Yeah, I'll start with some answers, but Lauren can pick up after my quick response here. So it all goes back to the state law. So the state law, I think it's Senate Bill 1818, encouraged affordable housing development, and they allowed this ratio for affordable housing developments and the parking required for them. And according to their ratio, the unit A affordable housing unit like this one would only require 282 stalls. So they are within the state law. However, how the number of parking is distributed among the units, I think Lauren can better explain that part.
Thank you, William. We so there's a couple of different things to address. One is I absolutely understand the concern about the number of parking spaces, and definitely can understand how the calculations you came to make a lot of sense. There's a couple different things that we do on projects like this. One is that we will often incentivize residents to use public transit by either offering them comped transit passes for whatever transportation is closest to the development. The other is that, and I'm happy to share numbers with you, I don't have them on hand, but we do pay very close attention to our existing projects and how residents manage their vehicle use. I was just, there's a project that we have going on in Oakland that's actually offering 0 parking at all. And I guess some of the reasoning behind that is that when residents move in, there is an expectation that they're choosing a unit where they're not going to have a lot of available parking. And so people make accommodations that way by reducing their vehicles and things like that. And then as far as, sorry, there was another part to your question and I just forgot. There was a reduced amount of parking.
Oh, and I had just commented that I understand the sort of reduction in the number of standard spaces to compact spaces. You know, for an affordable unit, that piece I get and makes sense. But my question was in terms of the overall number of spaces overall. Although I will ask, one of the questions I've got is in seeing that, you know, you've got covered carports, are those going to be solar, or are those going to just be basic covered?
That's a great question. I believe they will all be solar.
Good.
Edward, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I mean, our plan is to have solar on the carports.
Good. Thank you. I'm a big fan.
Well, just related to that, is the plan that parking will be assigned?
Oh, thank you. That is what I was going to add. We don't usually assign parking. Sometimes that can come later, but most often we don't assign units parking spaces. Just allows people to have better flexibility with where they park and accommodate families and things like that.
Since we're talking about parking, can I just jump in the question stream here? With the solar parking covered that you mentioned, are you planning on installing charging stations for your residents?
We provide EV ready for future installation. So we will provide like the transformer will be upsized to accommodate for the future installation of the 10% EV, and location will be identified for future installation.
Thinking behind that, Commissioner Goff, is that most residents of affordable housing developments at this point in time can't afford electric vehicles. They're usually out of reach, but the thought being that in the near future, that will be more common and that there will be charging stations available more easily.
Thank you. So all the backbone and structures will be there, but the station themselves will not be installed until a demand. That's what I'm getting out of that.
Correct.
So doubling up on that if I can, because we've talked about solar and EV, but the potentially greatest vehicle change may be, and Toyota's certainly looking for it because they've been kind of pushing hard on it, is the fuel cell. Is there anything going to be done or any thoughts in terms of a hydrogen facility?
We don't currently have that in our plan, so.
Okay, just got to put it out there if we're talking about these issues. That's still supposedly the future is the hydrogen fuel cell.
I had a question about parking as well. Will there be an area set aside or reserved for guest parking? Or is that just part of the general parking pool?
That's a good question. I actually don't know that we're designating guest parking on this project, and I can find that out. Edward, do you know that? I don't believe we.
No, I don't think we have that. That's part of the general pool.
Yeah.
Okay, and to follow up on one of the public comments that was made, we do have a neighborhood, Vintage Ranch, and there have been several complaints on our local next door neighborhood group about overflow parking from a nearby apartment complex. Apparently there's not enough parking inside the complex, and so the apartment dwellers are spilling over into the neighborhood parking, which is impacting some of the residents who, are trying to park in their neighborhood as well. I don't know how that spill over. I mean, if that situation were to occur in Watson Ranch, how close is this apartment complex to the residential subdivisions? Would it spill over to the subdivisions, or maybe just go back out onto the public road like Loop Road?
Who are you directing that question to, Tammy?
I guess that would be a question for the applicant.
I was going to actually, Director Cooper, you're more familiar with the Watson Ranch specific plan as a whole, and given that traffic was analyzed in that EIR, I would think you're actually more appropriate to speak to that than I am.
Sure. There is parking permitted on portions of Loop Road. The frontage of this project itself won't have parking on its side, but On the opposite side, we've had a preview for a single-family subdivision that's in the works. We expect to see an application there coming up in the next few weeks. And so, you know, there's traffic calming measures with bump outs and things, so it's maybe a little less parking than you might be used to seeing on a road of a similar size. But I think pretty much each project is parked in accordance with its requirements. With this one in particular, on page 18 of the staff report, I think as we talked about, we're kind of constrained by state law requirements for affordable housing parking. But in this case, the applicant actually is exceeding what the state law allows in the way of parking for affordable housing. So while it may be less than a market rate apartment, it is more than what the state would say we're allowed to require for an affordable apartment project.
Thank you. And yes, I understand the trade-offs, and I do want to acknowledge, I did appreciate seeing that it was a greater amount than they are legally required to do by state law to offer this affordable housing. And it was great to see that the wide range of affordable housing that was provided. And just as to satisfy my curiosity, when we talk about sustainability and all, I know there's bicycle parking, and I think there were pictures of the bike racks that were included in the staff report. And I wonder on the idea that there could potentially, I guess, be someone who doesn't own a car. Is there covered bicycle parking available to them?
I don't think the bicycle parking spaces are designated, if that's your question.
Okay.
But it's something that Lauren can address.
Actually, I will correct something. I just got a message from Edward that the parking spaces, we are going to have some that are assigned, that we don't always do. So I was mistaken on that. So there will be some stalls that are assigned. As far as parking for bicycles, I think your question was about whether or not there will be covered spaces available. And what I would say is there's two different types of bike racks that we have planned. One is one that ends up getting sort of like bolted into the ground, and one that is actually more easily moved. So the thought with the landscape architect was that we placed them on the plans as they're shown, but that as residents occupied the project, that we would be able to move those racks around to accommodate where most people wanted to have their bikes. And I suppose some of them could end up under like overhangs. But no, we didn't have any specific plan for covered bike spaces.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple of questions. So it looks like this is going to be 100% affordable housing, or, you know, if this goes through. One thing I see that there's two units assigned to managers. Is that for the property managers they would be living on site?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then I guess, William, for you or Brett, I mean, what are the medium incomes? Because there's extremely low, and then there's, you know, then it goes to low. My thought is just trying to understand kind of the attraction that these apartment buildings, you know, would get. And then just trying to kind of just going back to Lauren's comment of, you know, about the charging stations. That was one of my questions about, you know, actually providing that. But the thought of, well, a lot of the residents that do stay at these affordable housing units don't have the means to get the vehicles, or, you know, electrical vehicles. So I'm just trying to paint a picture in my head. If you could kind of give me some kind of basis on what we're looking at for medium income.
Yeah, so I can answer the numbers question. So every year the housing authority comes out with the area median income numbers. And for 2020, a family of 4 median income for Napa County is $85,500, and so that's 100%. And so you just kind of go down the percentages to find the other AMI numbers that they were speaking of. So the 100% for family of 4 is 85,000.
Okay, thank you. And then also just thinking through of all the other apartment buildings we have here, do you guys have it just knowing kind of what the vacancy, what our vacancy levels are at, currently? Tough question, sorry.
It's a tough one.
Anecdotally, Vice Chair Malari, it's there's very low vacancy, but there's a dire shortage of units available for people with lower incomes.
This likely would have a waiting list. Would you agree, Mr. Cooper?
I would expect so. I don't know if the applicant's done any marketing studies for American Canyon as a kind of gauge the interest.
We have, and I'd be happy to cite some things from there. I would say in general, our projects bring in somewhere between 5 to 10 applicants per unit that we have to offer. In fact, we just opened a new project for leasing in Elk Grove, and we had 10,000 applicants apply for that, which is sort of crazy. In this area, Napa County in particular doesn't have a lot of, I'm sure all of you know this, but doesn't have a lot of land that's zoned for housing, especially high density. American Canyon has one of the highest number of sites for this type of housing, and so there's a high demand inside of Napa County from people coming from all over. And in the projects that we've done in Sonoma County, we get applicants from all 3 surrounding counties. There's very, very high demand.
And will there be a max per unit? Say if you have a studio, max is 2, or for the other previous projects that you've been working on?
Yes. So each project will have a standard lease, just like a market rate apartment would, and that lease will be compliant with the regulations for affordable housing. But they'll be, limited to a certain number of people per unit. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, but yes, that's very tightly regulated. That's part of the reason that we have on-site managers, is to uphold those regulations.
And so,
Go ahead, Tammy.
thank you. I was interested in how when these are available to be leased, is it just you open it up to the general public, or do you work with county agencies who have a waiting list to give them priority? How does it work when you're ready to open up for leasing?
Another very good question. That varies by jurisdiction. And it also varies by the requirement of the jurisdiction to enter into a development agreement and the terms of those development agreements. So I don't know what the situation will be here. I know that it's very typical that we work closely with the housing authorities in the jurisdiction, because usually they have wait lists years long. And I know that we also try to lease up first with people coming the closest distance, if that makes sense. So we try to prioritize the people who are already living in the surrounding areas, as opposed to taking somebody, for example, from up in Sacramento.
So I guess, Brent, what is our policy here within American Canyon or Napa County? Do we have those types of requirements, or can we make those types of requests? Can you clarify for us, please?
Well, there's federal laws, starting from the very top. There's federal fair housing laws that don't allow for discrimination in housing. And so what we've had in the past With some of the more recent projects, the Village of Vintage Ranch has an affordable component to it. And the Reliant Apartments is another one that has also an affordable component. And they've advertised the leasing of those units on their own, and where they've needed assistance from the Housing Authority, they've coordinated. But primarily the responsibility has rested with the developer, since it's a privately owned and operated project.
Okay, so basically it's just market forces at work. There was no, working with people who may already be on a county waiting list or anything, unless the developer chooses to do so.
I think that's how it has worked in the last couple of private developments. When we had the Valley View project, well, that was public funds, and that had a little different way in which it was done. But for the privately sponsored projects, that's how they've managed it. We haven't had 100% for one for a long time that I can think of, perhaps in many years. And so it might make sense for the applicant to, like Lauren had said, begin with advertising locally and making use of those kinds of contacts. And we'd be happy to coordinate too, to help provide those contacts so that they're not just out there on their own trying to kind of work through that.
Yeah, if I can jump in following on Commissioner Wong's line of inquiry, is it possible to, just as we have done on numerous occasions in terms of business opportunities, recommended a, best faith effort for local hiring, is it possible to do something like a, best faith effort for housing locals first?
Commissioner Altman, I would suggest perhaps the applicant might respond to whether they would agree to that.
I guess we're waiting for Lauren to respond to the.
I apologize. I was coordinating with Nicole to see if I could, Caleb Roop, who's the president and CEO of the Pacific Companies, was going to join for a few minutes if he could, in and out of meetings. So I was just trying to coordinate that. Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The question was, following on the previous line of inquiry, is it possible and would it be acceptable to you to develop some sort of best faith efforts at housing or making units available to local American Canyon first, Napa County second, and then outlying area, third residents?
Thank you for the question. I was actually just messaging with Caleb about this. We do commit on all of our projects to work to have the local applicants into the development first. And there's a whole number of things that they have to go through, just like a market rate development would: credit checks, references, and of course an income qualification to make sure that they meet the income limits of the unit. So between all of that, we do our best efforts to house locally first before moving to other pools of applicants. And we market it just like any market rate facility would do. We market it to the public.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. Thank you for that reassurance. I think we appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The construction schedule earlier was sort of outlined as August 6th, it would be the approval, and then I guess construction would start, and it would take, I think it was something like 18 to 24 months. So if it were to start, say, this fall, and it took 2 years, so would it be fall 2023 that something like this would start happening, if I understood that correctly?
I'll have Edward respond to this. He's much closer.
So,
to
yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
let me,
Go ahead.
yeah, so, yeah, it'll be like 18 to 24 month construction duration. So yes, if we're pulling permit, like you said, August, yeah, so it'll start this year, 2021, and yes, finish probably 2023.
Excellent. Well, I hope at some point, I know you don't want everybody coming to watch, but the glimpse that William gave us of how the modular construction works looked pretty interesting. So I don't know if
Once the
we can come and
modular,
look-
yeah, you can come and watch and for, you know, you have hard hats and, you know, but typically when the modular gets arrived and gets craned in, it goes up pretty quick. I mean, I do have one project that's under construction. It has like a 301 units in it, and it was all craned in 18 days.
Well, being that we are the planning commission, could we make it contingent on our approval that we get a little preview party?
And we can invite you when the craning starts.
Oh, well, thank you.
Maybe time-lapse photography, and then we can.
Yes, we do have time lapse. We will do time lapse. I think typically the client do that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wong, if you are interested, the factory that the modular units are being constructed in is called Autovol, and that's in Boise, Idaho. It's actually founded by the founder of the Pacific Companies. And you can check out their website. They have some really interesting sort of like literature and education on modular construction, in case you're curious.
Oh, excellent. How do you spell the name of their company?
Autovol.
It's actually an
Okay,
automated
excellent.
factory.
Oh. Okay.
It's the only one of its kind in the US, and I think maybe one of the first 3 in the world to be
Yes.
automated modular.
Well, I'm going to definitely look into it. I appreciate your presentation, today, William, and Lauren and Edward. Thank you for answering all of our questions. I know we've had several presentations about affordable housing, so it's great to see this 100% affordable housing presented to us, and especially with so many levels. It seems like a very deep offering compared to what we've seen in the past, so thank you.
You're welcome.
If I can jump in with a couple of things. First off, given what I do professionally, I can answer some questions if anybody's got in terms of specifics on modular construction, because I've bonded a variety of modular construction projects in the past. So it is a pretty interesting approach. And there are some companies very locally, including one on Mare Island, who do modular construction. And in fact, I was going to actually ask who the company was, but you guys beat me to that with your comments. But I'm also, in looking at this, some of the, what I'm looking at is I love the affordable housing. I think it's fabulous, and I'm thrilled that this is coming before us. It's the areas of the concessions that I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding and comfortable with. And so we've sort of spent a fair amount of time on the parking. I'd like to touch on the open space and the reductions there. From the 1 point, and I may be off on the numbers, so I don't have the stuff up in front of me, but 1.28 down to 0.73 acres. And if I recall, the site is significantly larger than the site size that would be needed otherwise for this project. I thought there was a comment at some point in the presentation of that. So what's the thinking behind or the justifications and so on behind the reduced open space? And that's for anybody who wants to give me an answer.
Commissioner Altman, very, very directly, it allows us to increase the unit count and offer more units at and the depth of affordability that you are seeing is partly enabled by economies of scale. So that certainly plays a big part in it. And you know, it's a balancing act of looking at what amenities can we provide to residents so that they have a nice place to live, and also provide the most number of places for people to live.
Okay, fair enough. And I assume that also basically applies as the rationale for the various amendments to the setbacks.
Yes.
And Commissioner Altman, if I could also just add some, the usable open space for recreation is all contiguous, which makes it very efficient. Being there in the center, it's centrally located in the project. It's contiguous. I think it's very well laid out so that what is provided will be as useful as possible. And like some other sites that might have linear or just not as well organized. I think this is very nicely done so that it'll be a great gathering place for a variety of age groups in the facility.
Just a half basketball court makes it tougher to play more games instead of a full court where you can get 2 half-court games going. Right, Andrew?
Well, we were, the developer is actually a big basketball guy, and he was really pushing for that full court, but we couldn't make it work.
Got it.
It does seem, though, to give equal access to occupants of the different buildings. In terms of the open space, well, how accessible or is it restricted against the general public? Is it only for residents? Is that the plan?
Yes, these are amenities for residents only.
Okay. All right. Are there any other
I have one follow-up.
questions? Yes.
I have one follow-up, and it's really around the trail that kind of goes around the property. Is there intention for that to be lighted in any way, shape, or form? And will there be any type of waste receptacles on that are maintained by your project?
Commissioner Goff, if I could answer, the trail itself is not a requirement of this applicant. It's part of we'll call the backbone infrastructure for Watson Ranch. And it's all being designed and funded and constructed as part of the larger project. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer on whether the standards for it include trails or lighting or trash, but we can follow up with the commission on that. But whether it is or isn't wouldn't be an issue associated with this application.
Okay, thank you.
I did have a follow-up question to the point that the basketball court and, like the dog park, I understand those are private amenities for that residential complex. But what about the bike path? I was impressed that I think I read somewhere that it's 12 feet wide. Is that considered private to that residential complex, or is that considered a public amenity? Can someone clarify for me?
Commissioner Wong, I can clarify that. That's part of the Master Watson Ranch backbone facilities. Mm-hmm. So these trails will connect throughout the whole neighborhood. And this is just kind of a segment, right next to this project.
And they'll be open to the public then?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Are there any other commissioner questions? Everybody's at their fill? Okay. I just wanted to maybe get a little bit of context too as well. So this is the second project in this site-specific plan of Watson Ranch. What's the status of the work on the lots 14 and 15? And when is that going? So in terms of timing, just thinking the project overall.
Well, we know that that they've submitted their grading permit for lots 14 and 15 already. So typically it takes about like 6 weeks for the review and approval. I'm not sure if it's already approved. Edison usually has a better grasp on how that grading permits are. But that's already submitted, and as well as the master backbone infrastructure grading permits submitted. So we should be seeing them submit building permit plans in the next couple of months.
So there'll be master backbone work beginning prior to us, to the public or us seeing work on this project. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair Navarro, it is necessary in order to provide access and utilities to the site.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I guess if there's no other commissioner questions, I'm okay. Is there any further questions from the for public comment? I'm open to opening public comment again, or Mr. Ritz or anyone else. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Yes, we have Justin Hamilton Hull. And before I unmute Mr. Hull, I just want to remind people that they are allowed to raise their hand and speak once per item, which is standard practice.
Okay.
And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Hull, please unmute yourself.
This is Justin. I'm from American. It's gonna be very nice. And Brett Cooper, thank you. I saw a for sale sign is on our hill for a new house. So that is what gonna happen. Let me know what is going on there.
Okay. I think you're referring to the house parcels on Rio Del Mar, right by the church?
Yeah, that's correct. Sure.
Okay, I can get in contact with you and we can go over what's happening there.
Okay.
We are going to try with Mr. Fritz again. Mr. Fritz, please unmute yourself.
Hello?
Congratulations, we can hear you.
Okay, well, this isn't the Mr., this is the Mrs. Anyway, I guess my question for you is, these have been designated as affordable housing. Now, are they going to be affordable housing forever and not revert back to market rate like some of those did over at the Lodge off Main Street?
Would you like me to address this question?
Sure. Go ahead, Lauren.
Okay. These are deed restricted for 55 years, so they don't stay affordable forever necessarily, but a very, very long time. I would imagine that the units that you're referring to, and correct me, Director Cooper, if I'm mistaken, but those were probably privately funded affordable units, and those usually expire in a shorter amount of time.
Yes, Chair Navarro and Speaker, the Lodge at Napa Junction was approved back at a time when the city had a shorter period of time when affordable homes had to be kept affordable. State law has changed since then, and 55 years is now the standard. It wasn't way back at the time the Lodge was approved.
Okay.
If there are any additional comments, please raise your hand at this time. No one is raising their hand, Chair Navarro.
Okay. So we'll close public comment at this time. I'll get one more ask is to anybody have any further questions? Okay, so no further questions. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation, to go with the recommendation of staff to approve this resolution?
I'd like to make a motion to approve a I make a motion for a resolution to approve a design permit for development of 186 affordable dwelling units distributed over 8 three-story buildings in a 6.77 acre site within the Watson Ranch specific plan area. The project includes affordable housing development concessions that include reduced building setbacks, parking, and open space requirements. APNS 059-430-017, 18 and 19, file number PL 21-0004.
Okay.
Chair Navarro, if I could maybe just add one little change with amendments as proposed by staff to the resolutions, because there were some last minute corrections.
Okay.
And yes, I'd like that to include the amendments as proposed by staff.
Okay.
And I will second that motion.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Altman,
Aye.
Commissioner Goff, Commissioner Wong,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mallory,
Aye.
Chair Navarro.
Aye. Okay. That was consent approval. Okay, so next item on the agenda, 4.2, to consider 2 resolutions to approve a design permit for operation of stationary food truck serving takeout cuisine at 2 locations in the city of American Canyon. Staff has got a report.
Yeah, just give me a second here. Very different subject.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Let's try this again.
Okay. Okay, we can see.
Yeah. All right, thanks. All right, good evening again, Planning Commission and members of the public. So this is the second item, design permit for tonight. This is a design permit for 2 different mobile service vendors. The first one is called Tacos Baja Cali, and the second one is Tacos y Mariscos Los Plebes. So short agenda, similar to previously. I have the project location, the site plan, site photos, not architecture, but I have some pictures of the trucks and some additional info for everyone here. So both of these 2 are food trucks. The first one is located or proposed at 4225 Broadway Street. And this one is right south of City Hall, near Larry's Truck Choppers. And it's a big parcel, but the proposed lease area is around like 440 square feet. And, you know, the access is from Highway 29 southbound. And it's to the north is City Hall and some businesses. And to the east is Napa Junction and Walmart. To the south the woodlot, Hearst Firewood, as well as some residential. And to the west, we have the Teresa Avenue neighborhood, as well as the Valley View Senior Apartments. So here's the project description for the first food truck. It's in the Broadway District specific plan. It's in the Business Park District. And the design permit is for the operation of the food truck in a fixed 440 square foot location with the proposed hours, daylight hours for 7 days of the week. It's only going to serve, it only has 1 to 2 employees, and all the food prep and truck maintenance and grease disposal is all done off-site. Here's a simple site plan for the project. The food truck is symbolized in the blue square there. It's within the setback. It's on the site at about 40 feet away from the highway, and you'll see it right when you enter the Larry's Truck Topper site. There's also a 50-foot fence area here for temporary parking. Here's photos of the truck. This is a food truck selling Mexican food, and this is a picture of the property owner and her daughter, and that's how it would look like if it was approved. That's exactly where the site would be, and it's visible from the highway. So I want to move on to the second truck before we talk about the full service vendors itself. The second truck, Tacos y Mariscos, is going to be at a vacant site, undeveloped site south of the Walgreens. So this is one of the pads on American Canyon Road. The site is shown in red there. It's south of the Walgreens. Across the street on the highway to the west side is Safeway Shopping Center. And to the north, beyond Walgreens, is Village of Vintage Ranch, or 160 units there. And to the southeast is the Olympia Mobile Home Park. So similar project description. It's in the Broadway plan. This one's in the neighborhood commercial district. It's for the operation of a stationary food truck, fixed location, about 480 square feet for the lease area. The business hours is daylight hours, 7 days a week, and similar features, 1 to 2 employees. And besides the selling of food, everything is done off-site. So here's a close-up of the site plan. So this is the empty pad south of Walgreens. The food truck is shown in orange in the middle there, and they have 2 entryways from Broadway in the south, and you can also drive in from American Canyon Road in the north. Here's the photos of the truck. We met with the property owner, or the truck owner, a couple of weeks ago. That's a photo of him and his brother. And the picture in the north shows kind of like where the truck would go. They didn't drive into it, but it's like right next to where the truck would go, right there, south of the Walgreens lot. So yeah, so the food trucks, they're not permitted within the commercial area without a design permit. But we have an ordinance called the Mobile Service Vendor Ordinance that classifies food trucks as Class 2. They're permitted to conduct business in the general industrial area in the northwest, And they have the opportunity to do a temporary outdoor promotion permit, but it's only for a temporary basis. I think it's like 10 days a year. But the design permit will allow them to operate on a permanent location permanently. So I have explained this to the applicants. They want to go for the full thing. They want to operate continuously at the location, and they don't want anything temporary for what they propose to do. So I have a few more additional information before I let you guys discuss this project. So the projects will only operate in those fixed locations. Both of them are subject to the Napa County health licenses, which they've already began the process. They've talked to Napa County Health, and they're ready to proceed. Both projects require city business licenses, which they've already submitted. So they will be paying taxes like everybody else. And both projects have conditions of approval that requires the applicants to maintain the site free of garbage. And there's no signs proposed for the sites at the moment. Both of these projects have indicated that social media is their best form of advertisement. So in regards to the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, these are minor facilities and they are categorically exempt. That said, staff's recommendation is to approve both the Tacos Baja Cali design permit as well as the Tacos y Mariscos Los Plebes design permit. That's all I have for this project, but if you have any questions, I'll be here.
I just wanted to confirm something first, William, and this isn't necessarily a question for you. I guess this is more a question for Nicole. Nicole, I just wanted to confirm, I wanted to confirm the public comments that we had received on this topic. I saw one public comment in support from Karen Coleman. We received, and then we had two other comments, I think, from the Chamber of Commerce and then also from Rick Hess. But I think those may have been emails. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I do want to disclose that I did have a conversation with Rick Hess. He did call me and we talked about the project. But basically, what he covered was the gist of the email he sent out as well. I think he just wanted to make sure I had his input.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. There were 3 public comments, and like you said, that one was the letter of support, and 2 were Mr. Rick Hess's email is a letter of opposition, and the last one from the Chamber of Commerce is kind of like they support food trucks, but not where it's proposed. So I would say that's a letter of opposition as well. So 3 comment letters.
I had another question. And Brent, maybe this is a question for you in some respect. So we had a joint meeting with the Planning Commission earlier. It was focused primarily on the Broadway District specific plan because of our request for guidance on gas stations, fueling stations. But I think as part of that, Brent, you did include other uses. And I remember there were pictures of the food trucks and that came up briefly in the conversation. Did you maybe want to summarize any feedback or direction from council that was discussed at that meeting, or?
Well, Commissioner Wong, I don't recall receiving any specific feedback on the food trucks themselves.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so, there's arguments on both sides, and this is, I think, an excellent opportunity for the commission as resident representatives as to whether or not you believe this is the use that would fit within the vision of the Broadway district.
Okay, thank you. I actually did go back and listen to that meeting again because we had 2 of the 3 topics on our agenda tonight, food trucks and gas fueling stations. And when I listened to it, just to share with my other commissioners, as far as I recall, only 1 council member seemed to offer a comment on it, on food trucks, and it was more along the lines of liking it as a special occasion type event. As this council member liked the idea maybe of pairing food trucks with a farmer's market, like every week, maybe having rotating food trucks. Because I guess individual food trucks, I guess, right now aren't in the Broad Range District specific plan. Wasn't it designed to be more like a food truck court, or am I misunderstanding that?
If I could go back a little bit in time, the mobile vending ordinance was adopted and debated, losing track of time, but it's probably about 5-6 years ago. And at the time, the discussion was in the context of food trucks that, rove around as food trucks will do on on public streets. And at the time, the restaurants, we had a number of concerns from the restaurant industry in town with food trucks driving around their customer base. And so food trucks that are mobile are permitted in the general industrial area where there really aren't any restaurants. So that was viewed as a compromise. I believe at the time there was a notion that maybe there might be a food truck court where you'd have a variety of food trucks, because that was pretty popular around then. I'm not sure if it's survived. I remember there was one in San Francisco that was really cool.
Off the grid.
It's still there anymore.
It is.
But there was an idea that you'd have landscaping and lights and seating and restrooms and a host of things. And so this is a little different animal from that. And so it's a great question, which I think it's a good one for the Planning Commission to take on and offer your views as your purview as a role.
If I can jump in for a moment, because being the old guy, I was on the commission when we had that mobile vendor food truck conversation going back however many years it was. And if I recall correctly, actually, the food court idea was part of Watson Ranch. It was going to be somewhere in the Napa Valley Ruins and Gardens area that there was talk of potentially setting up something like that with a rotating cast of characters. I will also, as Commissioner Wong did, I did get a message from Mr. Hess and did then return his call and have a brief conversation with him where he was expressing his concerns, which he did articulate in his email. So just so it's on the record. But so that's some of the history with that, and I'll let Chair Navarro run the meeting how he likes at this point. I just wanted to make quick mention there.
Okay.
Chair Navarro, if I could just add one other thing. We did reach out to the Chamber of Commerce because I know they were I think they were active at the time the ordinance was adopted, to see if their views are the same, and I believe we did get a letter of support from the Executive Director today.
Oh, a letter of support? I thought the opposite. They were in opposition.
Oh, pardon me. Let me just confirm. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
They were in support of what we just approved. I think they were in opposition to the food trucks.
They're in support of the food trucks at a different location as opposed to where it is in the Broad Range District.
Yeah, so they oppose this. We're not approving something else.
Yeah.
We're approving this. So they are, as Mr. Heath, I think, pointed out, they're in opposition.
I'm curious, so.
Pardon me, I apologize.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Could we do it for maybe a temporary use, right? We know that the Broadway District Plan is not going to happen for a while. There's an opportunity that potentially a business can come in at a certain point. Maybe we repurpose that for the time being, to allow, food trucks to be there. But as far as a permanent fixture, I think then that would bring us all back to the drawing board for the Broadway District Plan that we all really want to occur very quickly, but also we want to also listen to the residents and the thought of, bringing in variety of foods, regardless if it's the same type of food now, but maybe this opens up the doors for other food trucks. I know that we do food trucks kind of at the Chamber of Commerce. I've been there a couple of times, kind of on a special event occasion. Just a thought. I mean, I don't like the idea that we would allow to have two affixed fixtures here for, to alter the Broadway District Plan. But also I am for bringing in, small businesses and trying to kind of help them, get their business going.
So I agree with Commissioner Malari. I do want to support small businesses, and I feel like the people who do these food trucks, I think they are starting a small business. They're nimble, they're entrepreneurs, and I do want to support that. But I agree. I'm not sure if allowing them as a permanent fixture in the Broadway District specific plan is the right place. My concern also would be that even if we allowed it on a temporary basis, if a business was considering leasing or purchasing a site next to it, would they want to be next to a food truck? They may or may not find it appealing. That would be my concern. I think the concept of having a court of food trucks, a grouping of them with like some festive lights strung up and some scenery would, it provides atmosphere, it provides charm. But in my personal view, just seeing a truck parked in a parking lot, there's not a lot of ambiance to it. It's just a truck. And when we think back to our plans for the Broadway District specific plan, I'm not sure if the aesthetics are a good fit. As to Commissioner Malari's point about residents wanting something new, I was on Facebook earlier today, and I did see the chamber is sponsoring, I think it's a monthly event. Brent, you may know more details. I think it's like cars and food trucks every month or something.
Grab and go event.
Yeah.
Perhaps Chair Navarro, perhaps the city attorney could comment on a temporary design permit approval option.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I understand the concern about a temporary use, but my concern also is how this was noticed. And if that's the way that the commission's going, I would recommend that it be renoticed for consideration of temporary design permits, so that issue of what that time is can be addressed. Normally, I would say the greater includes the lesser, but I think because of the location concerns and the temporary aspects, of course, contrasted with what we have right now in terms of regulation, both in the code and in the Broadway District specific plan, I think if that's the disposition of the commission, I think it should be renoticed for consideration for design permits on a temporary basis, say not to exceed a given time period, 30 days, 60 days, something like that. I think that would be the way that you get fair participation if that's the way that the commission wants to go. I'd also encourage disclosure about other ex parte communications if they occurred from other commissioners as you could further discuss this matter. that would be my observation on that issue.
And Chair Navarro, this is a
Yes.
public hearing tonight too.
Right. So we can, is there any further questions about the report from the commissioners?
No, thank you for the great report, William. Very thorough.
No, I just love to hear from whatever additional public comment there might be, and then make some additional.
Okay, I just want to make sure everyone's gotten their say in this case. So if there is no further commissioners, then let's open for public comment. Is there any public comment?
Yes, Daniel Harder, I'm going to unmute you. Please begin speaking.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. I just am checking in to support Ms. Murillo's taco truck. I think it's a great idea. I'm a resident of the city of Napa. We have trucks all over the place, and I have never seen an issue with any of them. In fact, many of them turned into small community meeting places. We see friends at them. We enjoy going to them. Their spot where they picked at Larry's Truck Toppers, I think, is an awesome spot because they have plenty of off-street parking. I think that's about the only issue in Napa is the amount of cars that are parking near and around the taco trucks that, you know, inhibit traffic flow and things like that. But they seem to have that covered. And I know I've known Ms. Murillo and her husband for over 10 years now. They are very responsible business people. I don't see any hesitation in having their business in American Canyon that would affect it in any adverse way. Like I said, I think it's a great idea, and especially if you're putting affordable housing fairly near to the taco truck, it provides a reasonable meal for people that they don't have to eat junk food at Sonic or any of the other fast food restaurants in the area. And plus, it's close to City Hall, so maybe you'd like to go down and have a nice taco. That concludes my comments on it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harder.
Okay, we have Chris James. Chris, if you unmute yourself, please.
Hi again. Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about this. I like it that, you know, as the previous gentleman said, that it is a small business. I really do appreciate the entrepreneurship of people. I'm a little concerned that it is not what I envisioned to see in the Broadway plan. But again, these lots are underutilized. Obviously, we're going to get some tax dollars from this, but maybe, you know, the short-term lease may be more appropriate. And I do see them up in the business districts. Maybe, you know, I don't understand why they would come down here when there's a lot of opportunity, but there are a lot more people working in the warehouses, I think. And, you know, again, when food trucks are mentioned in the past and about, you know, having them at farmers markets or special events, that's how I would see it working. I am a little concerned with it so close to the freeway, the first one you presented. You know, the access in and out directly on that freeway can be challenging at times, you know, to coming back out, especially close to the light. So when the cars are flowing through that light, it's hard to get back onto the freeway. And with the truck being so close to the freeways as well, is trash, you know, in the high winds and blowing stuff around. So I'm kind of curious how that would work. And then on the second location, it sounded like they were going to do site upgrades and putting a pad down. So that sounds like permanent stuff at this point. So, you know, offering a temporary short-term lease or a short-term agreement, I would think that would dissuade them from doing that if they have to, you know, they're going to be pouring concrete for a pad and maybe putting, you know, extra utilities in. And then talking about utilities and stuff, you know, I'm imagining there's going to be generators running, you know, these trucks, right? They don't run on their engines. They have diesel generators sitting there running the trucks. So right next to Walmart and the businesses there, I'm wondering how they feel about it. Obviously, they may be open to it because they're allowing it, but, you know, having diesel generators running 7 days a week next to the Walmart may be a problem. But I can see that one is I think the better location because it is closer to where people live, and the high school kids coming through. I could see them being big customers of this thing. But the other one on the freeway, I'm kind of a little more hesitant about personally. But I think it's a good thing to have small businesses. It'd be nice if they were to actually just come to the city permanently, because it's anyway, like as a store rather than a truck. Thanks. So that's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. James.
We have Cindy. Cindy, please unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hi. We can hear you, but it sounds like there may be an echo.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so I was originally really excited when I heard this. I know I've lived here all my life and I've been waiting for something like this, a food truck over here. Normally when I go eat out for a food truck, I have to go to Napa or Vallejo, and I was really excited to get one in American Canyon. As far as the concerns that were brought up earlier for the food truck on the highway, I didn't really see that as much of an issue because I know Larry and Pat's, they have their pumpkin patch there and their Christmas tree decoration and all that stuff that they put up there. And I've never seen an issue there, so I didn't think that was going to be much of an issue.
Is there, okay, thank you, Cindy. Is there any other public comment?
There are no hands raised. If you would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand at this time. Nobody is raising their hand, Chair Navarro.
Okay. Mr. He, is either of the applicants on the line available?
I see Vanessa raising her hand. She's the.
She just raised her hand.
Yeah. So yeah, they were all invited though. I sent the email to them,
okay,
as well as their property owners.
Vanessa, I've asked you to unmute yourself.
Good evening.
We can hear you.
Hold on. I think I accidentally. There we go. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Let's see. What I can tell you a little bit is, we're residents from American Canyon for, a long time. And about 3-4 years ago, we tried to put a food truck here in American Canyon City. And we were told that they were only approved for the in those industrial areas. We didn't want to do that, we didn't want to be driving around and, we wanted more something like a stationary truck, to be there. Like, I think one of the clients, one of the residents mentioned something about the generator. If it's run by diesel, my truck, our generator that we use is by gas. It's gasoline, so it's not diesel. And it's a very quiet generator. The spot that we choose, Larry's and Pat's, 4 months of the year, we have the pumpkin patch, we have the Christmas tree sale, and I think would be a great atmosphere, for the area. You go buy your tree, eat some tacos, you go bring the kids to the, the jumpers for the Halloween patch, and, buy food. So I think, that would be a good area. I know American Canyon is, doesn't want to be full of food trucks like other cities. And, approving 2 would be great. I think, it's great for the residents. They don't have to be going to Napa. They don't have to be going to Vallejo, like the other resident mentioned, have something here local. I know American Canyon Chamber, I'm very surprised that they didn't approve or they didn't give the support for the food trucks when I see on the American Canyon Chamber Facebook, a lot of residents, they are mentioning, when are you going to bring a food truck, a permanent food truck to the area? And like one of the commissioners mentioned, they have an event once a month, they bring trucks from other cities, from Napa, from, I think, Fairfield. They bring it, for the residents for American Canyon. what can I say? Approve my project. I think this is going to be great for the residents, great for me. And, we're going to be paying taxes. We're in a business that we're going to be paying taxes. I'm going to be paying rent, to be parked there. I think it's going to be great, instead of going to other cities. I don't know if I'm missing something else, but I hope, to see your support.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Laura. Since she is the applicant, do any commissioners have questions of Ms. Laura? Commissioner Wong.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Laura. Thank you for joining our meeting and giving us the opportunity to talk with you. I did have a question. You mentioned that you were surprised by the stance of the Chamber of Commerce and that you are aware that they've had events featuring food trucks before. Have you ever tried to participate in any of the Chamber of Commerce's events as a food truck, and what was your experience with them?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, not as a vendor. I actually, I saw the flyer on Facebook that they're doing the once a month, and I did contact the lady, I don't remember her name, that I want to be part of the event, once a month, but I haven't heard back from her. I have tried as a resident, I did, I was curious to go there and see, and that's how I came back. Like I say, I applied I did not apply. I went to the city and tried to apply for the food truck like 4 or 5 years ago. And they told me that it was something that American Canyon was not doing. Now that I saw chambers and people asking for the food trucks, I was curious, and that's when I contacted Mr. William He, and he was able to guide me and told me how to do a step-by-step, putting the application and applying for a design permit. Because I did mention him that I was surprised seeing, a guy of Safeway, with his little business selling fruit. I don't know if I see him, I see him there, selling fruit almost every day. And I was curious, how did he get his permit? And, I haven't get my permit. And then I saw, Chamber of Commerce, supporting and announcing, food trucks. And that's when I noticed, people asking, it's about time, to have a food truck here in American Canyon. And I saw the support of the residents of, American Canyon, that they were looking forward to have something finally here in American Canyon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the applicant? I have one. Could you tell me more about your operation, how you deal with the preparation of the food and the refuge and your hours of operation? Kind of like a quick snapshot of how your food truck would operate.
Let me see if I'm on mute. What's the second thing? Yeah, for the preparation, we are required by health department to be part of, to have a commissary, which is either a restaurant or like a market. In my case, I have a restaurant where we do all the prep, all the cooking. We throw our garbage there. We throw, we pump water there. We wash the truck there. We, dispose the grease that, for the day. It's required by health department, to have a commissary. And mine is off Vallejo on Redwood Street. And the other question was refrigeration, which is the same thing. We, keep our stuff, all our food, everything is kept there. So basically what we do is just take, food for, the day.
Okay. And what are your planned hours of operation?
I was looking, yes, thank you. I was looking to stay from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Whatever is approved by you guys, I'm willing, to accept it and, work. I know it's something new for the city, and, I'm willing to, work, with you guys. So by my application or my intention was 10 to 8 hours of operation.
And is that 7 days a week?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
If I can ask a quick question of
Sure.
the applicant,
And then Commissioner Wong.
which would simply be, I think one of the concerns that I have, I don't know if others have it, is that as a food truck, you have certain competitive advantages that are make it kind of unfair competition to the 3 existing Mexican restaurants in town, excluding Taco Bell. We'll throw them aside. And so that's one of the concerns that I have with this. And so my question for you is, have you considered a permanent location rather than a permanent food truck location, just opening up a store? There are vacancies in town that could hold a new restaurant.
That would be an ideal, mostly, because of the investment, food truck would be the most accessible. But eventually, we grow, sure, why not? Would be nice to put a restaurant. That would be an ideal, one of our goals, eventually to put a restaurant.
Got it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Wong?
Thank you. So I had 2 questions, maybe 1 question, 1 comment. So in the presentation that William gave us, it was sort of mentioned that there would be 1 to 2 employees. It sounds like your truck is an ongoing business and that you are already operating it elsewhere. So how many employees do you operate with? And does the truck arrive with both employees in it, or does one drive the truck and the other employee arrive separately? How does that work logistically?
Yes, it's 2 employees, and one drives the truck and the other one, gets there.
Okay, so then there's the truck and then there's 1 employee parking. So in your site, how much space is available for parking? Is there customer parking and employee parking, all together, or is your employee parking taking one of the customer sites? How is that calculated?
The spot that I have, it's the one right next to City Hall. It's Larry's and Pat, and he has plenty parking. When I presented to William, I told him about 400 square footage would be used. I was thinking more like the truck park, and if eventually we can, we're approved by putting tables, like 4 or 5 tables there, some lights, so people, once cover, a Corona, it gets a little bit more aligned, we can put some tables there. But it's I presented 400 feet, but there's plenty parking, the area for the pumpkin patch and the Christmas trees. It's, the whole area that they own is, about 7 acres. So it is plenty parking.
Okay, thank you. And I seem to recall, I think this is one of our discussions about the Broadway District specific plan, or perhaps I'm confusing it with some other presentation, but when we talked about, Brent or William, access on and off 29, wasn't one of the goals to limit it so that not every business is entering and exiting directly, but that there would sort of be like a common access point? Isn't that one of our goals? Does that ring any bells?
I had to click 3 times on mute, though, Commissioner Wong. There is a goal to reduce the access points onto Highway 29 from parcels next to it. So that's true. And, at some point, perhaps this is a prime location with older buildings, arguably underutilized, much more could happen on that property should it be redeveloped. And at that time, you take a look at access points. But also note that Eucalyptus Drive at some point will be extended just south of that, adjacent to and south of that property. So there will be new access points in the future that aren't there today. So I mean, that whole area there at some point will be re-envisioned.
Okay, and from a planning perspective, how do you see, if this were permanent or temporary as a food truck, how do you see that working with maybe future development or redevelopment, since you said this is an older location and likely something would happen?
Well, it is an older site, and if it were redeveloped, there'd be frontage improvements on Broadway, new landscaping, new buildings. What you see there will be, reconfigured in some form or fashion, and I wouldn't envision, the food truck remaining in its place as it's proposed today, should it be approved, through some post-redevelopment scenario.
So how does approving a permit for a location that's likely to be redeveloped, and then we wouldn't want the food truck there, how does that really work then? When we approve the permit, it's not like a temporary permit we're approving. We're still discussing what was agendized as just, the regular permit. Can you clarify that a little?
Well, the food truck applicant is a leasee, would lease the property from the property owner. And presumably when the property owner wants to redevelop the site, then, they have authority as the property owner to set up a lease terms. Presumably that would enable them to, without constraint, reconfigure the site as they feel is appropriate.
Okay, and so the license that we're granting to the food truck is specific to that location. If they wanted to move the food truck elsewhere, they would have to come back and reapply again?
Depending upon the type of change, they're scooching it, over a little bit. That might be, fit under the auspices of a minor modification. We have, different code thresholds for when somebody, if you're changing the approval, then it needs some kind of authorization. The zoning code has different levels of that kind of approval. If you're just kind of moving it over a little bit, that could be a minor modification. If you're moving it, across the property or maybe another one, another site altogether, then that would be kind of very similar to what we're doing today. A new design permit.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do a quick follow-up on that, Brent.
Yes.
The design permit process that we're taking on, that they're going through now, how long does that generally take? And what is the cost associated with that? I'm just looking at, what is in front of us is for a year. And one of the options that Mr. Ross expressed was refloating this under a different time frame. And I'm wondering if we did that, what that additional cost would infer if we said like 180 days, so they had to renew every half a year or so.
Our permit processing for a design permit is based, the cost to the applicant is based upon the staff time to process the application. So if there's few issues, then it's
lower charge.
It's less, $1,000 perhaps or less. If it's a more complicated project and the like, well, then the cost goes up accordingly. I think the publication itself is about $200-300 just to publish a public hearing notice in the paper.
So if what I'm hearing you say, then generally the outcome, if I'm assuming if it's approved on a temporary, again, I'm just saying 180 days, re-upping in 180 days would probably be a pretty streamlined process because it's already been approved. Yet they're still going to incur the filing fee and what you just said, the public notice fees.
Yes, depending upon the way in which a renewal is structured.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of the commissioners?
I've got an inquiry kind of for staff on this. Given this applicant's comments about, in response to my earlier comments about, you know, the goal, the dream would be to have a permanent restaurant. Has the city, does the city have anything at its disposal to assist an applicant like this, instead of doing a food truck, to actually open a, you know, more permanent fixed location spot? I know that the city did some things, and it took some planning commission actions to make happen with another local restaurant over the past couple of years. And I'm wondering if this is something that perhaps the city, if we don't have presently something in place, that we should be looking at doing going forward. Because my concern here is twofold. One, I don't know that this really fits within the long-term goals of the Broadway District specific plan. But two, on the more immediate side, is, to my mind, and I think I mentioned this before, is, you know, it becomes unfair competition. And I will say, if these trucks that we were talking about were bringing cuisine that we didn't otherwise have, then it wouldn't necessarily, in my mind, be unfair competition. But we've got 3 Mexican restaurants in town, and their costs, insurance costs, inspection costs, etc., let alone the you know, lease costs for the space that they're in, are significantly more than a truck. So the truck can sell the same product at a significantly cheaper price, and that's what makes it unfair to me. You know, I was kidding around to somebody earlier. You know, if they were bringing in German sauerbraten, well, that's not offered anywhere in the city. You know, there's no unfair competition. But we've got 3 taco places, and it to me, you know, they are existing businesses that deserve community support. So that's where I kind of run into the big struggle, and so I'm wondering, because I am a big advocate of small business. I really would like to see, you know, more opportunities, and I think it's wonderful that that their goal is to open a restaurant. Can we help make that happen? Is ultimately my question to staff.
There you go. Commissioner Altman, we don't have a formal program to help assist small businesses with setup costs. We did have a unique situation, I believe, with the Lasso restaurant that we did bring that to the council for decision, but we don't have a ongoing program as you're describing.
Does the Chamber
Perhaps
of
it's something
Commerce?
that the council should consider then. So,
Yeah, I think that's a little outside this commission's purview. Go ahead, Commissioner Wong.
Oh, thank you. Brent, do you know if the Chamber of Commerce offers any type of like incubator program for businesses? Because, you know, I think we all want to encourage local businesses, small businesses. We want that diversity, but yet at the same time, I think we also want to be fair to our existing businesses as well that have, you know, invested in American Canyon and been here for them. I mean, I know there's a lot of effort on the part of council to support local dining. But I'd like to see equity, right? Support new upcoming businesses as well as our existing businesses.
Yeah, Commissioner Wong, there was an effort several years ago for a potential business incubator program spearheaded by the Chamber of Commerce. And I don't have the details, but I do recall that there was some pretty hefty cost to bring in an organization that could set that up, because it's a very specialized area of business development to be able to set up a place where businesses have mentors and just space to rent and have someone organize all of that. But I don't believe there is something of that sort today.
Okay. And I did have one other question, and this is entirely different, but I know we allow ice cream trucks to drive around and sell their food item. How is a mobile truck any different in that respect?
Commissioner Wong, there was quite a lot of discussion about ice cream trucks at the time the mobile ordinance was being developed, and there are different classification of mobile service vendor per the ordinance, but they have some changed regulations that came from that than what they were doing before the ordinance. So there's some limitations on times of day and places they are. But they are not in a fixed location, kind of like we were talking about here.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions from commissioners? Okay. I guess I do see several people on the line. Is there anybody that has not participate in public comment?
But we have the applicant again, Vanessa Lara.
She has another, okay,
And then, yes, and then we do have somebody else, but.
okay.
if we'd like
Let's
to-
open up back the hearing then.
Okay. Vanessa?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, to respond to Commissioner Wong, that she mentioned the ice cream trucks. There are food trucks approved by American Canyon already. Food trucks, Mexican food trucks, they are approved. I not sure how many, but I think I seen three. 3 Angels food truck, but they do go inside the industrial area. That's where they sell.
Okay.
They do go to, where the construction area is, the residential, where constructing the apartment. They go there and they park and they sell, the product. The difference between, their food truck and the one that I want, I'm requesting to get approved is that I'm going to be, park instead of be driving around in the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Clark.
We have
and
Justin
then-
Hamilton. I'm sorry.
Okay, Justin, go ahead.
If somebody just called me in, I just saw a sign on my Zoom meeting. I'm missing something. I'm so sorry. Somebody just called me in.
You raised your hand to speak?
Not now, but somebody just called
Okay.
on a Zoom to me. Is there a way I can send my email on Zoom to Brett Cooper so he can
Yes.
email me back an update? Is there a way I can do it on Zoom?
You can direct message me an email contact for you, Mr. Hull, and I will provide you with Brent's email and contact information.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so no other further public comment?
No, there are no
Okay.
other comments at this time.
Okay, so I guess then if there's no further comment, is there a motion to,
Chair Navarro, I have some comments I'd like to make. They're not questions, but they're just comments in general.
Sure. Okay, please do.
So I, like a lot of you, it seems on this, is a little torn by this. One is our desire to support small business, especially local small businesses. Ms. Laura is a resident, I believe, of the city of American Canyon. Yet at the same time, I'm conflicted with the placement of both of these within the Broadway specific plan. We're just coming out of a conversation with City Council about what the view of that is. And I don't necessarily think permanent food trucks in the Broadway specific plan falls within that. I'm more of interest with, as Mr. Ross talked about, reposting this with a time frame, a renewal date of somewhere in the neighborhood of 120, 180 days, I think would be more appropriate. It will give them the opportunity to go in, open up, test their work and their water, and how they can do in those sites. But at the same time, we're not locked into something that is permanent. I know Ms. Laura even talked a little bit about, her vision, which scared me a little bit, was putting up tables and more of a permanent structure. And essentially, it was a restaurant with a food truck. And that I'm a little bit concerned about, again, in conjunction with the letter from the Chamber of Commerce of us supporting our existing restaurants that have physical facilities that they've invested in, and allowing a food truck to come in and possibly develop some type of outside seating without that investment cost. I think we need to back what we have already in the Broadway specific plan and support them as much as possible, the restaurants that already exist there. So I'm more in line with refloating this again with a time frame associated, not the permanent structure that is in the resolution itself. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
If that option would be acceptable to the applicant, I think that is something that I could support. I would see it more as an opportunity to support a small business and hopefully allow them to, get to perhaps see this as an entryway to being a storefront restaurant, maybe to finding a location where they can have, this type of setup permanently. Or maybe it's an entryway for an entrepreneur out there to open up a space and set up a food court business. Perhaps, there is some opportunity for that in the BDSP, to have a location, to offer, 10 spots for food vendors or craft vendors, have a little small market, something of that manner to allow small businesses to exist. I do see a need for small businesses in American Canyon. I think we can foster it by offering a temporary permit. I think we should, we owe it some consideration.
Okay. Commissioner Malari, you have any comments in regard to this?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Mr. Goff as well. Just torn, right? The placements of these food trucks compared to what we've already discussed numerous times about the Broadway District Plan. Not so much of an eyesore and not so much of just kind of the traction of the attraction of people, but just kind of sticking to what our vision is for American Canyon and to affix something in the fixture permanently as opposed to temporarily. I'm more inclined to entertaining. At this time, it kind of fulfills the need of the small business. It fulfills, the desire of our community wanting a variety of foods, and also gives us an ability to come back and, discuss further kind of the outcome of, however many days we allow this to be.
One further thought I do have about this, though, is if we do go ahead and consider temporary, the idea of just continually renewing a temporary permit, though, is the same thing as offering a regular permit. And that goes back to some of the points Eric made about the financial equity between food businesses in American Canyon. We have these storefronts with larger seating capacity, more employees, higher expenses. compared to a more nimble, smaller operation without the same level of overhead and employees. So I think it does need more in-depth discussion. If we want to consider it.
Commissioner Altman, do you have any final comments?
No, I mean, I guess my final comments would be that I think staff needs to go back and speak to the applicants and see if any kind of, shorter term approach would be acceptable to them. I'm not sure where I stand on that. I'd have to fully vet it. But, my concern is at this point, twofold, as I've mentioned. One, I don't know that this really fits with the Broadway District specific plan, as we've heard other commissioners mention. And two, I'll continue to harp on it, but it just seems to me to be there's an unfair competitive advantage that a food truck has. And to give that, if we're going to give an unfair competitive advantage to somebody, shouldn't we be giving that unfair advantage to someone who has already been here and invested in the community, not to the newcomer? I want to see new businesses, absolutely. I think anybody who knows me and has heard my tenure on the commission knows that. But I just think it's the way this is looked at right now for me. As I said, and again, if this wasn't Mexican food, if it wasn't taco trucks, if it was something entirely different, that could change my perception. But this is direct competition for 3 existing restaurants in our community. I've got a hard time with giving a newcomer that kind of competitive advantage. Insurance costs are significantly less. They don't have the same kind of health inspections. They don't have to deal with, costs for installing, a grease trap and cleaning the, much bigger grease trap. It's just, the cost basis is so much lower that it's clear to me, if we offer this to the community, the costs are going to be cheaper. So where are you going to go? Are you going to go to one of the existing places to get your burrito, or are you going to go to the new food truck? Hey, it's cheaper. I'm going to go to the new food truck. And what's that going to do? It's going to put out our existing businesses. And I don't see that as being what we as a commission should be looking at and backing. And it's why I brought up the idea of helping these businesses to become permanent. I'd love to see that happen. I want more businesses. But I don't think that a permanent food truck location is the right way to go about it. Temporary basis, potentially, but that would still take some convincing from me. So that's my comments.
Okay. Well, my comments are going to be that, we're not controllers of the marketplace as the Planning Commission. The market will play itself out, whether it's Mexican food, Chinese food, whatever, hamburgers or German food, the market's going to play it out. We're not Economic Planning Commission. We're the Planning Commission to make sure that that this is proper use of the land. Is it the highest and best use? I think I could see an argument that it is not, but they met all the qualifications. They've gone through the process, and in fact, at least one of the applicants is a resident of American Canyon. So I'm okay approving this, actually. And I'm a little a bit taken back about the comments about too much Mexican food, but I'll put that aside and just say, I believe that kicking this down the road and saying, well, make it temporary and then have them go through all this. It doesn't sound like we, as a commission, are in approval of this, that it doesn't meet, basically, really, it doesn't meet the vision of in most of everyone's opinion, of the Broadway specific plan. And so I think, we haven't ever, denied anything. And it sounds like this might be the first since I've been on the commission to do that. So I would, if there's no motion to approve this, I think we will hand it back to staff as not recommending it to the city council. So, I'll ask for a motion. If there's no motion, then we basically, it's not approved, and so we could go to the next item. Is that correct? I haven't done this before.
I believe that's true, but I'd like a confirmation, if you don't mind, from the city attorney.
This is scheduled for a hearing for disposition on 2 resolutions. So, you can approve them, you can deny them, you can continue them, with direction to staff. But, to take no action, there's got to be a reason. So, that's going to be on the record in one of those categories.
So do we have a motion to deny or to continue? I know there was some discussion for.
Keep in mind that there are 2 resolutions before you.
Yes, for each resolution. Or is there a motion to approve one? One was, I can see there was a bigger concern about the location of one. So is there a motion we could bifurcate these if one seems okay because of the location and one doesn't?
Chair Navarro, I think I concur with some of what you said. I think it's painful to have to deny an applicant because I think for the most part, we want to be positive and support everybody who wants to come and invest in American Canyon because, we have pride in our city and we appreciate those who see value in our city. But for myself, standalone food trucks, I don't think they meet the vision that we have for the Broadway District specific plan. After listening to the joint session we had with council last month, it seemed pretty clear to me that they were encouraging us. Basically, we have flexibility, but they were encouraging us to have high standards for Broadway District specific plan. And, land is finite. We only have so many businesses we can place. And so for me at this time, I won't be making any motions to approve with regrets.
So do you wish to make a motion to deny?
Chair, I can go ahead and make a motion if you'd like.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to deny a resolution for the Planning Commission of the City of American Canyon approving a design permit for the operation of a stationary food truck serving takeout cuisine in the Broadway District at 4225 Broadway Street. That is APN 058-270-008, file number PL 21-0007. That is the first of the 2.
Do we have, I think we can vote for them together. Oh, you want to deny one?
Separately.
I see. Okay. Gotcha.
I second.
Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Altman.
I want to make sure we get this right. If I am voting aye, that is, I am voting in favor of denying this. correct?
Yes.
And this
Then
is
I am
just one of
voting
the,
aye.
this is the one on, at Larry's, at the Larry's Truck Tops.
Yes, regretfully, I am voting aye.
Okay?
Okay. Commissioner Goff,
Aye.
Commissioner Malari,
Aye.
Commissioner Wong,
Aye.
Chair Navarro.
No. Okay,
Like to move on to make another motion?
sure.
So again, a motion for a denial for the resolution of the Planning Commission on the City of American Canyon approving a design permit for the operation of a stationary food truck serving takeout cuisine in the Broadway district at the vacant pad south of 210 American Canyon Road. That is APN 059-110-056, file number PL21-0010.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I think Commissioner Wong seconded first.
Okay.
So roll call would be Commissioner Altman,
Again, regretfully, but aye.
okay. Commissioner Goff,
Aye.
Commissioner Wong,
Aye.
Commissioner or Vice Chair Malari,
Aye.
and Chair Navarro.
No. Okay. All right. So, sorry, staff, we are denying your recommendations to allow for these design permits. So, next item on the agenda, another good one. Right. So, moving on to business. 5.1, to receive a staff report about fuel station general plan amendment workshop.
Chair Navarro, just wanted to check in and see, it's been 2.5 hours, a little more. If the commission wanted to take a break, perhaps, or
Sure.
this is also not a time-sensitive issue.
Should we continue it?
Move to your next meeting if we don't normally have meetings quite this long. I'm happy to present it, but I wouldn't be heartbroken if the commission wanted to continue it, or at a minimum, take it a break.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind a continuance.
Okay.
Before we, I'm not opposed to a continuance. However, I do want to respect if we have residents who have waited this long to give a comment. Is there any way, Brent, that we could just ask them before we decide to go ahead and continue?
Yeah, I think that would be perfectly appropriate.
We do have a record number of attendees for this meeting. We have 12 people in our waiting room. So,
Oh my goodness.
And we have a call-in person who has raised their hand.
Okay.
I apologize. I can't identify call-in people.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a number of people who have waited 2.5 hours. Would it be?
So why don't we take a break then, and then we can open with public comment?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to do that? Okay.
Yes.
So take a 5-minute nature call break and drink water, whatever, and we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. And when we reconvene, we'll open public hearing first and go from there. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. We're temporarily adjourned. I'm sorry if we went a little over. Is everybody back?
Looks like we are missing Commissioner. Missing somebody. Hold on. No,
Carl?
everybody's here.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Okay. Is Mr. Ross?
Mr. Ross is just hidden and muted at this point.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and call the meeting back to order. And how many people do we have?
So we have 12 people in the waiting room. So far, only one person has raised their hand.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and open the hearing to conduct a workshop to discuss a potential general plan use element policies that regulate fuel stations in all zoning districts in the city of American Canyon.
Colin Speaker, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, and can you please identify yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. And can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Good evening. My name's Lori Stelling, and I'm a Napa parent and a member of Napa Climate Now. And I wanted to take a moment to call in tonight to really express how grateful I am for the process through which American Canyon's going through to address the issue of more fuel stations in your city. And, you know, I've been working on local climate action for the past 6 or so years now. And back in January of 2019, I spoke to the Napa County Board of Supervisors really about the importance of taking swift and steady climate action. And that was back when my son was 11. And now he's 14, and there's nothing like watching your child grow to have the sense of urgency around climate action continue to grow within you. And, you know, over
my first year of college, I'll look back at American Canyon and feel some type of deep dread knowing that there was no changes made. The fossil fuel industry has been identified as the largest contributor to climate change, and we believe that the best way to reduce our carbon emissions and footprint and to keep our community as clean, safe, and healthy as possible is to limit our reliance on the fossil fuel industry. The students of Napa Schools for Climate Action urge our local elected leaders to consider and endorse a permanent ban on all new gas station development. This is a solution that will fulfill the goals of both the 2019 Climate Change Proclamation and the Urgency Ordinance. As the oil and gas industry continues to decline, all arrows point in the direction of alternative fueling. American Canyon is a small and beautiful town, one that does not need or want new gas station development. A ban on new fossil fuel development is priority of our citizens, embodying our wants and visions for the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to ask Alyssa if she would like to go now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elisa Koresh, and I'm a junior at Napa High School. I am the co-president of Napa Schools for Climate Action, here to speak on behalf of our group. And first of all, we would like to thank you for all of the hard work that you do for the city of American Canyon. You are aware of the climate crisis and listen to the demands of our generation. Local leaders like you encourage us to continue fighting for our future. Napa Schools for Climate Action's ongoing project, Fossil Free Future, highlights the impact of the fossil fuel industry on climate change. And as Emily said prior, we believe a ban on all new gas station development is in the best interest of the entire city of American Canyon. With citizens expressing their distaste for newly proposed gas stations, now is the time to take this step to a greener future. one that is not only better for our environment and health, but for our economy as well. The prices of solar, wind, and other clean energy sources have decreased significantly within the last 10 years. According to the Sierra Club, since 1980, our economy has grown by 149%, but energy use has only increased 26%. That's due in part to energy efficiency having doubled since the 1980s, reducing waste and saving families money. Economic growth is no longer tied to using more energy as our homes, cars, and businesses have become more efficient. We believe that this shows our future will not be primarily reliant on the fossil fuel industry. With the gas development ban, more of the city's time, energy, and money can be invested into the clean and green energy industry, one that is growing every day, providing new and stable job opportunities, fiscal opportunities, and more. We understand that electric cars can be hard to afford, which is why we wanted to reference various local organizations and initiatives that work to make clean vehicles feasible for all members of society. For example, Drive Clean Bay Area offers programs that will provide financial assistance to the income qualifying consumers who like to have an electric vehicle. Our friend Gopal Shankar from Ecolta Energy has worked with Napa, establishing various electric charging stations all throughout the city, encouraging more and more citizens to make the switch. Clean energy is the key to the sustainable future that we hope to have. As you continue making decisions in regards to fossil fuels, greenhouse gas emissions, and other climate-related policies, we would like to encourage you to continue keeping in mind the future health of the community and connect with those who will help guide the city in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Krish.
All right. So we have Chris James.
Okay,
Please unmute yourself.
Mr. James.
Yeah, that was the second time I had to press it then. Sorry about that. Yeah, first I'd like to thank you all for, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
great. Yeah, so I wanted to thank you all for making this happen. You know, this kind of started in this commission. So, you know, this is the next step in that. And I do thank you for listening to us all and for keeping this on tonight, because I know a lot of people did show up to listen to this. And I wanted to echo, without repeating, I guess, things that have been said before me. They've said a lot of things that I was hoping to say, but so much better. So I won't repeat that. And especially the youth that showed up. You know, they're our future, and they give me hope that we're going to do something right here. And I'm excited to see that our city is taking the lead on this. You know, it's shocking to think. Well, not shocking, but it's really nice to see that we are taking the lead. And I hope that the ordinance, I think it is going to cover the whole city, and beyond what was originally discussed was the Broadway district. So it looks like that's going to happen. And we really don't need any more gas stations in the city. And that's been discussed at length. So again, thank you so much for considering this again tonight, and to keep the ball rolling and make this happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Okay, we have Jim Wilson. Mr. Wilson, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm Jim Wilson. I live in Napa. I'm a retired quality professional and risk manager. I'm a volunteer with 350 Bay Area Napa Climate Now, and I teach climate responsibility in the schools, including American Canyon High School. I greatly appreciate your efforts to address the issue of additional gasoline fueling stations in American Canyon. You're taking an important step in making permanent changes to the general plan and zoning regs that will ban future permitting of this type of fossil fuel infrastructure expansion. The challenge of solving the climate crisis is monumental, but conceptually it's really simple. We need to rapidly move beyond fossil fuel consumption and simultaneously draw down the large human-caused excesses of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, while helping the most vulnerable among us adapt to the climate change impacts that we can't avoid at this late date. Today, young people are confronted with a gathering storm of dangerous climate impacts. These endanger all of us, but disproportionately endanger our young people and future generations. 2 years ago, the Napa Valley Unified School District recognized this injustice in its May 2019 resolution called to climate change action. It reads in part, whereas in November 2018, the US federal government issued the 4th National Climate Assessment Report which detailed the massive threat that climate change poses to the American economy and underscored the need for immediate climate emergency action at all levels of government. The following month, the City of American Canyon, along with all the other municipalities and the County of Napa, passed its countywide commitment to address climate change proclamation. It reads in part, whereas climate modeling shows that it is not possible to stabilize global mean temperature rise at or below 1.5 degrees C without undertaking additional pre-2030 climate mitigation and restoration actions. These urgent actions are additional and complementary to the current efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions being undertaken by the state. The proposed amendments in your staff report are just this, additional and complementary climate mitigation and restoration action. Thank you. This is consistent with the organizing principle of the climate emergency. I urge you to direct staff to move ahead quickly with the proposed changes. By setting firm dates on stopping doing wrong, you'll inspire other communities to do the same. As Commissioner Wong said during April's Joint Planning Commission City Council meeting, act now while you have momentum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Anyone else, Ms. Jones?
We have a couple of other people who have not raised their hand. If you would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand at this time. Okay, we don't have anybody raising their hand.
Okay, so I will go ahead and close the public hearing comments. Should we go ahead and move forward with the workshop, or should we continue it? I kind of lean to continuing it. We have heard these comments. This also would give greater chance for more input next at the next hearing. But what say you, fellow commissioners? Continue with this, or proceed to complete this item, or continue it to the next meeting?
I'd like to continue it to the next meeting.
Okay.
Go one step further. I'll make a motion for a continuance of this item to the next meeting, and that helps solve the problems.
Okay. Second?
Aye.
Okay. All right, roll call to continue.
Yes, Commissioner Altman.
Aye.
All right, Commissioner Goff,
Aye.
Commissioner Wong.
Hi, and thank you to everybody who stayed on to give us your comments. I appreciate you very much.
And Vice Chair Mallory.
Aye.
Chair Navarro.
Aye. Okay. Okay, so we'll maybe we can have this be at the beginning of the next meeting's agenda, and then it'll be posted, so maybe we get more public comment and input as well. So should we go on to staff items?
Okay, thank you, Chair Navarro. This is the kind of the standing time of the meeting, just going over current projects in the Community Development Department. I'll just go over some of the highlights. We have a new application over in the Napa Logistics Park. It's at the southwestern corner, so it's the most remote part of the park, for a PG&E regional center. PG&E has been looking for a place to stage a lot of their equipment and materials for response to disasters and just general maintenance for a long time, and this is a good location for them. The Planning Commission had approved a warehouse building on this site a couple of years ago, and so this would replace the approval that occurred in that location. So that's a fairly new application that's just come in and it's out for staff review.
Okay.
Let's see, another larger project is the Giovannoni Logistics Park. That's off of Green Island Road on the north side. And they've accomplished a lot of, we've had a couple of reviews of their site plan. I know the Public Works folks have been working on drainage issues, and they're finishing up their traffic study. This project will have an environmental impact report. So there'll be more review yet to come. Let's see, moving down to item 14, we have the Hampton Inn zone change. We received a recent response to comments a couple of days ago from the applicant on this one. The zoning right now doesn't allow a hotel, and one of the requirements that came out of a workshop with the council in December is for a marketing study. We received that. I expect we'll be going back to the council the next month or so, giving them an update on the workshop. I'm sure they'll be interested in that discussion as well. But ultimately, if it goes forward, the zone change would need to come to the Planning Commission for your recommendation.
Okay.
The Oat Hill General Plan Zone Change and Design Permit and Subdivision, of course, were reviewed by the Planning Commission earlier this year. The next step is the Airport Land Use Commission, and the applicant and staff has been working hard on getting perfecting the application for the county to have that hearing done. We're looking at a potential date in the middle of June, and if that happens, it would move forward to the council in its July meeting. But the ALUC meeting isn't for sure yet. We're still hoping for that. Another project is the SDG 217 warehouse project. That one had been approved by the Planning Commission and was appealed to the City Council. The environmental review has been recirculated, and the date will end on June 3rd, so it's just around the corner. And then it would go to the City Council for a review. Let's see. Do we have anything else? The Village of Vintage Ranch, many of those apartments have been built, and they've been operating under a temporary occupancy permit, and we're in the process of finalizing the whole thing, so it'll be completed. And
Brent, when you talk about Village Apartments, I believe those are the ones getting all the complaints on Nextdoor about the parking. Is there anything that can be done about that from city perspective?
The project was approved with more than the code allowed required parking. And so it's a situation where people are parking on public streets. I know that people who live on a street oftentimes feel sort of a form of ownership over the space in front of their houses, but they are public streets. We can talk to the management and see if something is happening on the property in some way that might lead folks to want to park on the street instead of the parking that they have available on site.
So it sounds like you were saying that they have ample parking on site. So the question would be is why would the residents leave to park off site? I don't know what they're allowed to do. I mean, one of the comments I read, it seemed to indicate that they were charging extra for additional parking. Is that within their purview of their business model to do that?
They are allowed to do that. I think other apartments do that as well. I think it's a fairly routine business practice in rental units.
Okay, and so there is nothing restricting residents from deciding not to pay that extra fee and just to park on public street parking. That seems to be what's happening.
Street cars can park on a public street, but has to be moved every 72 hours.
Do we, I know in some cities like San Francisco where parking is very restricted, they actually have, I don't know what they call it, but they're like zoned parking permits. You have to live in that area and you get a permit and only you're allowed to park in that zone.
That isn't something that American Canyon has done. We would have to look at that.
Is there even parking enforcement other than police just responding to, vehicles that are just been there more than 72 hours or something, right? There's not any parking enforcement in American Canyon, right?
There is parking enforcement through the vehicle code. There is a website link and reporting to the police for vehicles that have been parked for longer than their allowable time, 72 hours.
Okay,
That is a normal function for the police service.
right. Where San Francisco has a whole enforcement, mechanisms to manage those permits and all that.
Yeah, there is no on-street permit parking in American Canyon.
Right.
I don't know if we've set the save the date, but we've are looking at following up on a joint meeting with the City Council and Planning Commission, and we've kind of earmarked July 27.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something that's been brought to your attention.
Mm-mm. I haven't heard that before, but
So
save the date.
perhaps you could check your calendars and,
Okay.
send a message to either me or Nicole and let us know if that works for you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And that would be my update.
Okay. Any further questions? Go to commissioner items. Any commissioner items?
I had a question
Oh, okay.
or commissioner item. I guess I have a couple things. First, Fran, thank you for including that wonderful explanation you wrote about how the planning process works in the newsletter. I posted it on Facebook. I was so excited, and I put it in our local American Canyon Facebook group so people would understand. I don't know if anybody read it, but I thought it was a very clear explanation, and I'm
Yeah.
planning to post it on Nextdoor again to maybe try and recirculate it. Because I know sometimes when people ask, why can't we have a Trader Joe's? Why, they have to understand there has to be someone who wants to come and bring that to us first. So
Right.
thank you for that lovely explanation.
Mhm.
I had asked back in March, you were giving us an update on the general plan, and we had talked about how there's these different committees, they're doing their thing, and then at some point, it comes to us. And I guess it's a holdover from my student days where I kind of like to be prepared. And I was like, what's the timeline? Should I kind of start looking at some things? I'm kind of a slow reader, and I know sometimes these documents can be lengthy. And you were going to give us an update on that. I was wondering if you might have an idea when that information would be available.
There are a lot of opportunities, thank you, Commissioner Wong, for reminding, there are a lot of opportunities for the commission to be involved in the general plan. And I put together kind of a list of potential workshop topics that I can bring to the commission to fill you in. A lot of what stopped me from coming in with, here's the list and the schedule, has been workload. Ensuring that we're moving forward. We have our committees. I know that we've slipped some of the dates on that for similar reasons. We want to make sure that we're able to get a quality product out to the committee in advance so they can look at it. And sometimes I think we overpromise and underdeliver on timeframes and end up having to slip the date. So I'm a little gun shy on doing that with the commission, but I would like to think it's appropriate for me to at your next meeting perhaps fill in kind of here's some topics that I do want to bring to the commission. And tonight on the fuel station is itself a general plan amendment workshop, so it's kind of that sort where we bring topics to you as a commission. We can have a nice conversation about what is the context, where are areas of opportunity, and what are right things we kind of move in direction of and get your feedback as we kind of go through. So I think it's a great opportunity. I'm glad the commission's open to that. It's something I'd like to do. Some of these are like the Broadway district uses. That's another meeting to schedule and prepare for, and I'm sure there'll be follow up and all of these things take a little time and can sometimes stretch out our ability to move, quickly towards other goals.
I understand, but I would just love to see a schedule, even if it's just rough, even if it says, oh, you may just see it sometime, Q1, or just to give an idea. And I think, given the importance of this general plan to our little city, I'd love to kind of see that even circulated out to our residents. I know probably not many of them may be as interested, but perhaps this is an opportunity to raise awareness for them. And, because it's a big deal for us. And I think I've been here since 2010, and I think there may have been some type of update going on back then, but it totally just went right over my head. So, this time I'll try and do my part to spread word among my neighbors and everything. If there's some information that we can start putting out there, even if the dates aren't firm.
Good idea. Yes, I think you'll enjoy seeing a list of things that we will talk about as time allows us to get it in front of you.
Thank you, Brent.
Okay. Are there any other commissioner items?
Yes, if I can.
Okay.
One big one of importance. I think we've got an amazing community, and I love seeing how the community has come together, going back to support, Justice for Black Lives, the very recent Asian and Pacific Islander issues. But as one of the very few Jews in the community, I haven't seen anything about the outbreaks of anti-Semitism that have happened, not necessarily in American Canyon directly, but in California, around the US. I haven't heard our city council comment on it. And I think it's something that we're missing and that really should be recognized. And that, we as a community, if we want to talk about loving everyone and standing up for everyone, it's something that we have to turn inwards and look at our own hearts and see if we're really doing as much as we can for the small Jewish community in this city as we are for larger communities that exist, like the Asian and Pacific Islander communities.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other commissioner items?
I just have two real quick ones. First one is I just want to thank the two students who spoke tonight. I always love when students, high school students, come in and speak into these public forums. So thank you both to the two students who spoke. And the other one is I just want to give the opportunity to remind everybody that there is a COVID vaccination clinic happening on the American Canyon High School campus on, I believe it's June 2nd, Wednesday. It's really designed for those people who haven't had the opportunity, and then also opening up for the teenagers that are now eligible for vaccinations. So make sure you check out the Napa County Public Health site and get information about that if you're interested in vaccinations locally here in American Canyon.
Okay. Any other? Go ahead.
Yeah, just one. I think it was a few weeks ago I participated in the virtual the Planning Association conference, and it was really insightful to kind of just see where the future is heading, right? You talk about climate change, you talk about electrification. I kid you not, all of the sessions that I have attended is kind of geared to that, right? Geared toward kind of the future planning, how planners are currently looking at, re-identifying themselves as a city, as a community, I would say updating their current infrastructure, working with utilities. So I think some of the recordings are still available, but I think one thing just knowing is that the decisions that we make here aren't just our opinions, but it's just what we feel truly is best for our American Canyon. And I greatly appreciate the involvement and the increased involvement, if you will, of our city citizens, and also just in the community in general. I think that's what we need to steer us in the right direction as a whole. I think that just, you know, whether you have a feeling or inclination of a topic that is going to be presented or even public comment, it's greatly appreciated, and it's encouraged to continuously do that. So I appreciate the joint meetings with City Council. I'm actually happy that we're going to do another one. I think that's just where we're going, and this is exactly the right step. Like, keep going, keep that momentum going. That's all I got.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Oh, and I want to add, I also attended the conference. Thank you, Crystal. I'd forgotten to mention it, so I appreciate the opportunity to attend. We've had a lengthy meeting, so I don't want to really say much more, but there is one note that I took from it that one of the speakers shared, and she said, it's not necessarily innovative solutions, just solutions that haven't been heard. Listen to your community. That was something that one of the speakers shared, and it really resonated with me about listening to our community. So I want to emphasize, along with what others have said, I really appreciate our community engagement, particularly from our younger students. And Principal Goff, I think you're at the high school. I think you should give bonus points and encourage more students to attend. Maybe there's something extra you can offer them. Please.
Okay. Any further commissioner items? Okay. All right. Well, I just thank you all for hanging through. This was a tougher than usual meeting and longer. And here we go into summer. So anyway, with that, I guess I'll go ahead and call for adjournment. We don't need a vote, right? Just adjourn. So meeting adjourned.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks. Good night, all.
Good evening. Take care.
Okay. Bye now.